A lot has happened at Kenilworth Road since the last time we recorded a podcast, so we will look at who's come in, who's left, and a look ahead to Saturday's game against Sheffield Wednesday. Alongside me to do that, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Pretty busy week, Jimbo.
It's looking positive, isn't it?
It is, yeah, feeling good. We'll go through everything, as I say, right after this intro.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, it's been quite a busy few days for Luton Town, with some comings, some goings, and a football match to look ahead to. So we're going to do all of that. And I'm in the company of the Lutonian journalist, James Cunliffe, as always. Jimbo, we'll come on to the Sheffield Wednesday game shortly because, well, we basically did an hour and 20 minutes pleading for signings in the last podcast, and they've arrived. We've signed two for definite. Kal Naismith's come back, and Thelo Aasgaard from Wigan. It looks like we're very close to signing Millenic Alli. I've gone through a few supermarkets on my way to the studio, didn't find him, but I'm sure he's somewhere to be had. And well, let's start first of all with Kal Naismith. Absolute bolt out of the blue, this one.
Yeah, but a welcome one, a really welcome one. I think it's a really shrewd move, because he knows the club. His interview when he came back said he loves the club. I think there's some people sort of suggested about the way he moved and stuff, but it all did get cleared up in the end, doesn't it? So no question, no problems there. And at the time we thought, well, that would be his last big move, and if he can get a good contract, then it was understandable. But for him to come back, really shrewd move, because first of all, he's a leader, and that defence needs a leader.
Hallelujah.
Exactly that. Hallelujah. He's got a wonder of a left peg. Now, on the downside, of course, he's played, 7 games this season. His last one was November the 5th. So whether we've gone in the market and picked ourselves up another injury-prone player remains to be seen. But he did say in his interview he's strong and ready to go. So hopefully those things are behind him and he can just slot in, shout at some people, bark at them in a very threatening way, tell them what to do, whip in a few balls, maybe score a banger here or two, and hopefully we get the Kal Naismith back that we left. Although he said he's a better player now, so we'll arrange to be. So really, really positive, shrewd move to sort of come in and help that defence.
Yeah, I mean, he should be a better player, shouldn't he? He spent 3 years under the best manager in Championship history. But no,
that's a callback to the interview he did when he went to Bristol, didn't he? I mean, take those things with a pinch of salt. They've got to say these things to their new fans that they've got to try and ingratiate themselves with. I know there was a statement from Luton at the time that it wasn't the right etiquette or something, but then Nathan Jones said a couple of months later he was well abreast of what was going on and stuff. So I push all that behind it. At the moment, at the place we are, at the time we are in the season, at the position we are in the league, that is a really good move to get him back.
Yeah, I don't care if it's the biggest scumbag ever known to man. We just need that position filled. And
you did say that, didn't you? You just wanted some horrible,
nasty bastard.
I mean, he's not
not
nasty.
That. No.
He's a cultured player, but he will shout at them if they're not doing the right thing, and he'll lead by example as well. So
if that defence thinks it's going to get away with not marking its man, can think again now, because he organises, he shouts, he leads. I think it's a brilliant signing. I mentioned it to you, didn't we, on the group chat when it happened. Neither of us saw it come in. sometimes we do sort of get a wind of certain transfers. That wasn't the case here. But it was particularly important, Jimbo, because as we record this Thursday lunchtime, news is broken that Tom Lockyer, that is, may well need another operation. I mean, if it never rains, it pours for the boy, doesn't it, really? So close, days away from playing an under-21 game. And now it looks like an operation that he's had hasn't been successful and he's got to go and have a replica.
Yeah, really tough luck for Tom. I mean, you'd be an optimistic man if you thought he was going to probably come back for this season. I know they said he could be, but it would have been right at the arse end of the season. And you know, time could have been up then in terms of Luton's relegation fight. So, yeah, it's just sad that he's going to have to go under the knife again and push that back a bit further. But I think, you know, if he can get right for the start of next season, then you know, just the fact that he's around is the main thing. To ever see him on a football pitch again would be incredible. I think it would happen, but yeah, these things are set to try us and him, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I think it's going to happen as well, but maybe taking these 3-4 months, whatever it is, to get this ankle sorted so that he's ready for pre-season and have the full sort of 2-month pre-season so that he's on a par with everyone for next season might just be the beneficial way rather than coming back tentative, maybe, you know, damaging something else whilst he's protecting an ankle, for example. We've got Kal Naismith in the building. He can do the same job that Tom does in terms of the leadership. It'd be interesting to see if he takes over the captaincy now, wouldn't it? Cal's probably a person who doesn't need the armband to be the leader, but he was the captain under Sonny Bradley when Sonny Bradley didn't play. Last time he was here, obviously Carlton Morris wasn't here the last time we had Kal Naismith. But yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, there's the doubts over his fitness and everything else, but we're not asking him to run marathons, are we? We're simply asking him to slot in alongside Mark McGuinness, throw himself in front of a few balls and do that cultured passing. I mean, Isaiah Jones best be looking for that diag because we've got a master exponent of it.
Yeah, that's precisely it, isn't it? And you know, he can score as well because he used to be a winger. So, and he's versatile as well. So if he needs to fill in, it depends. It remains to see what the formation will be with him, isn't it? Because I feel a bit more comfortable if they did go back to a 3, and not that everybody wants to see it, and I don't think Bloomfield is going to, but he has played it. But we all know that Amari Bell's been sort of not at his best of late in that left back role, so it remains to be seen. But just we needed fortification there at the back, and we've got that. It's not to say I don't think they should probably try and sign some other people, and I hope they are trying. But for starters, that is pretty good.
Absolutely. That was the number one position of need for me. I know lots of people are saying that we need a striker. I still don't buy it. Of course, it looks like we're going to sign a forward anyway. And we'll come on to the Richard Kone situation shortly. But yeah, Naismith was announced first thing Tuesday morning. And then as the day went on, rumours were getting stronger and stronger that Thelo Aasgaard was coming. Then, of course, Wigan had a game that night. Nowhere to be seen in their team sheet, and within 5 minutes, picture of him in Tesco's by the airports doing the rounds, and well, it was pretty obvious then that we'd signed our man.
I think henceforth all transfer signings should be announced unofficially in varying degrees of supermarket. You know, Ross Barkley would be what you Fortnum and Mason, wouldn't he?
Is that why they brought
Danny Spiller would be Happy Shopper or something like that?
Is that why they put the Audi up next to the training ground? I wonder who's going to be pictured there.
Not wrong with Audi, mate.
No, there isn't.
Not wrong with that.
Absolutely not. You know,
good solid. That's what we need. Good solid central defensive midfielder. Not central. Yeah, that's the right word, isn't it? Somebody at the back that's going to say, no, you're not getting through. He can be unveiled in an Audi, no problem.
Yeah. Anything he wants to be honest. Aasgaard. Luton fans know a little bit about him. Scored 2 bangers against us in our promotion season, one in the league, one in the FA Cup. The league one was the winning goal down here, wasn't it, under Nathan Jones? Sort of 25-yard chip pinger into the top corner. And a volley at their place. I think it made it 1-1, and we went on and won the game anyway. Do we coach that out of him, or have we actually brought someone who's allowed to shoot from outside the penalty box would be the first thing? I hope it's the latter. I hope he's allowed to shoot from outside the penalty box because clearly his radar is very good.
It does. I've got no problem with the sign at all, apart from his name. There's too many A's in it. And
I didn't. When we was messaging, I didn't put enough A's in it the first time round. I was like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, for a man who has to type names out quite a lot, that's too many A's for one name. But that's my only gripe with it. And I'll get used to it. Don't worry. But it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough being me.
It's hard life, mate. Hard life.
He looks really good, doesn't he? We've seen him before. He can hit them. He's got a bit of pace. Again, I think he's quite versatile, but he's been playing in more advanced roles for Wigan. I did check a couple of team sheets for Wigan on their recent games. He's been playing up as in the front too. So, whether he can, add to striking roles there, but if not, and just as a midfielder, his goal scoring output in a team that's 16th or something in League One. Goal scoring output is incredible for a midfielder, and we've been missing that ever since the pomp of Luke Berry, really, haven't we? So I'm not saying he's going to be Luke Berry Mark II. I think they're different players, but in terms of getting goals from elsewhere on the pitch, then yeah, it's a really shrewd signing, and we're led to believe it's reportedly 3 million, although officially undisclosed. That's a snip, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't really want to bring it up, but you sell Taylor for 3 million, you buy Aasgaard for 3 million. I think it's fair to say we've got a player who's more championship ready than the one that we've lost. I know they're slightly different positions, but ultimately, I know I've opened the can, haven't I? But
the comments are going to be full of people having a go at you now.
But ultimately, it is good business, and all those that said that the club aren't going to spend money, well, they are spending money. That just Jones and him alone has taken us up to 8 million. Add in the Makosso fee, which was rumoured to be up towards 2 million euros as well. We're suddenly getting into a £10 million transfer window with more to come, if the rumour mill is led to believe. The other thing that we all looked out for on Tuesday night was Wycombe's team sheet. There seems to be it's like a soap opera saga, this, doesn't it? The first bid for Richard Kone was rejected. Second bid for Richard Kone was rejected. Third million bid was rumoured to be £6 million. Now that would be a standout signing, £6 million for a geezer who's only played 12 months at most at League One level, but he is scored 2 goals the other night. Third bid rejected. We can kiss goodbye to signing Richard Kone. He's not leaving Wycombe this transfer window, or it looks like he's not. And if we want to revisit in the summer, but look elsewhere, which we seem to have done.
It seems to be that way. I mean, don't rule anything out, I suppose, because I am expecting a busy end to the transfer window the last few days. But 3 rejected bids says to me that he's not going anywhere. And you would have thought that Luton really know what his price tag is, because they've had his manager just come in the door. But 6 million is decent, but you can understand why Wycombe aren't interested, because they can go up to the Championship, at which point his value increases, so they could sell him more. And even if they don't, Luton have shown that there's a club there willing to pay 6 million, so they could get 6 million from him in the summer at least. And from Wycombe's side of it, yeah, I fully understand why they're completely rejecting. Now, listen, if they up it even more and go, if you enter in double figures, but I wouldn't imagine they're there yet, that does become hard to turn down, I guess. But the fact of the matter is that Wycombe are sitting very pretty above. There's a decent gap between them and Wrexham in third in League One, so they've got a really great shout of going up to the Championship. And this guy is firing them. He's got 19 goals or something. He scored 2 the other day, 1 in injury time winner. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. And now with the links to Alli from Exeter, I think that would suggest they've moved on a bit from it. Whether something happens in the last few days, or whether summer's the time, we'll see. But I think he probably attract a lot of attention from a lot of clubs. That guy. Yeah,
he would do. I mean, obviously, the thing that we would have over some of the other clubs would be the locality, wouldn't he? He wouldn't have to move house or anything to come to Luton. If he's at Wycombe's, not much of a commute, is it? Whereas some of these clubs that I've heard are interested in him, like West Brom. That's not a 5-minute commute. Yeah, I agree. I think you go to the summer with that one, because they wouldn't have played him Tuesday night if we were anywhere near the valuation. If we were only talking £1 million here or there, they wouldn't have risked it, because if he'd done himself a mischief on Tuesday night, that would put pay to, like like you say, even though they could go up, that's still a sizable amount of money. I'm led to believe that the bid was 3.5 million up front with 2.5 million in all the add-ons. Well, you would imagine any add-on in January includes Luton staying up. So hopefully anyone who comes in ticks that particular add-on box.
Yeah, so when you break it down like that, it's not that impressive for Wycombe, considering what they stand to in gain by keeping him and going up, or somehow not going up and then selling him for more to somebody in the summer. Yeah, I don't see it. I think that it was pretty telling when they announced their team sheet on social media on Tuesday night, and they had a picture of Richard Kone next to the lineup and doing the old heart gesture with his hand like that. And I think that says to me that he's staying. And then the interim manager came out, Sam Grace, afterwards, said he's committed and he's staying here. So as in Wycombe. So yeah, it does seem less likely now, but never say never, I guess.
I mean, if he is a Luton player before 11 p.m. on Monday evening, then their social media team's going to have a bit of egg on their face, because every third tweet's been about Kone in the last week. So
you got to think as well that they haven't got any time to replace him. I'm sure they'd have targets and stuff, but the cons outweigh the pros on their side of things, doesn't it? So but fair play for going at it and trying to get the guy, because it's obviously a prospect. We'll see on that. But Ali equally looks a prospect. He's not scoring as many, not catching as many eyes, but I think there's more versatility in the way he plays from what I've looked at.
Also scored 2 on Tuesday night, albeit in a 6-2 defeat to Leyton Orient. But still scored 2 goals. Yeah, you're right. I've seen some Exeter fans on social media saying that he started out as playing wide for them, but their managers moved him through the middle, and he's sort of come alive a little bit through the middle. So you would imagine he'd be back up to Elijah and Morris, but could fill in those wide positions. We've said ever since Matt came in that those front three are going to be rotated regularly, and he probably is just missing one, isn't he, to do that rotation. I mean, we saw on Saturday he rotated Isaiah Jones, but we never really got that comfortable output on that right hand side with Jacob Brown there. It never flowed, did it? And I know the game itself didn't flow, but I think we are missing that kind of wider player who can rotate the front three. We can rotate Morris and Elijah through the middle, but we would still need someone else were one of those two to get injured. Jacob Brown could obviously play through the middle, but the wider areas, we've been using Brown either side and it hasn't really worked, and Moses seems to be out of favour. He's not even been in the squad recently. We've heard nothing to suggest he's injured. I wonder if he'll go out, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So yeah, it would make sense, a guy who could play all across that front three, which will give me a lot of belief that we're going to stick with a back four. 1.5 million, I think someone said the bid was, which isn't going to break the bank or anything like that. Young enough guy. Kind of reminds me of the Elijah signing when we signed Elijah, actually, albeit from a division above, but a guy who wasn't necessarily the most free scoring Walsall player in the world. I know he'd got to about double figures by the time January had come along. This guy's on 9, I think. But you can see the similarities, albeit this one probably fits a Matt Bloomfield structure a lot more than maybe even Elijah would.
Yeah, it's pace, isn't it? That's the key thing. That was a hallmark of those front three at Wycombe. And we know all about Fred Onyedinma. It was one of those one. So I think that would be the case. I've also, if you're looking at good omens, I've also seen some highlight packages of Ali where he plays on an awful lot of bobbly League One pitches. So he'll do all right on that Kenilworth Road pitch if it doesn't improve in the time between the last game and the next one. But that's good. He also can hit them from distance. I've seen a couple of good goals that he scored. So I think that when you add those facets all together and the relatively cheap transfer fee that seems to have been agreed, then I think it's again a sort of a shrewd one. He'll be in the first team, you'd imagine, but whether he hits the ground running straight away, I guess will remain to be seen. But we sort of said that about Elijah, didn't we? And he came and and as soon as he got his first start, he scored a goal and he was off and running. So, Yeah, it's a decent one. Very Luton signing, isn't it? Very, very Luton signing. You can see all the hallmarks of that. But it does look like they're addressing all the areas that we wanted them to so far. I mean, there's some are light now because of today. Tom Krauss has gone back to Germany, but yeah, there's a few more days left, isn't there, to try and bolster that. And you would have thought, because they've allowed him to go, that they've got some eyes in the fire.
Yep. That's the level of scouting we go to on this podcast. Can they play on bobbly pitches? You don't get that on your data analysis, let me tell you. Can they play on bobbly pitches? Yes, he can. Seems to be the consensus, and that's no bad thing. Yeah, you're right. It's a very Luton signing. 1.5 million. It's a lot of money in any kind of scope, but we're probably in that range now as a football club where 1.5 million, if it doesn't come off, you've not really lost anything. Whereas sort of prior to the Premier League promotion, anything up to 1 million, if it doesn't come off, or you haven't lost anything. Once we got promoted, I mean, we had Ryan Giles for 5 million that didn't come off, and no one's really batting an eyelid about that. So yeah, really pleased. Should stress, at the time of recording, he's not a Luton player. But reading between the lines and everything that we're hearing, we're expecting an announcement. It might even have happened by the time that you watch this, which will, with this coming out on Thursday night / Friday morning. You mentioned it there, Tom Krauss. I heard the rumours at the start of the week that Wycombe were looking to get Mines to take him back, and then he'd go on loan there. So he swapped one relegation battle for another because they're in an even more dire straits than what we're in. They're rock bottom of the Bundesliga. Obviously a club that we know from that double friendly before the Premier League season last season. I think if it had happened under Rob Edwards, I'd have probably been, well, fair enough, because that midfield 2 was never suiting Krauss in a month of Sundays. And the effort and the energy and everything else that he had to expand in that midfield 2 just led to him always seeming to run out of steam after about 75, 80 minutes. However, now that it's happened under Matt Bloomfield, who started him in all 3 games and played him for as long as he could in all 3 games, I think he eventually went off towards the end of the Millwall game, didn't he? That would suggest to me that he was very much part of Matt Bloomfield's plans, whereas Rob had because he was only using 2, he had other options. He could play Shandon Baptiste or Liam Walsh or whoever. So I think it's a bit more of a blow under Matt Bloomfield. I think you're right. Obviously, the club have agreed to it. They would have been well within their rights to say, no, we've signed you until the end of the season. You're staying here till the end of the season. Not that it would have been a great deal of good if there's some personal issues in there anyway. And you'd like to think that we've got, our eyes on someone to replace him, because I do think we do need to replace him. You could argue we've got a lot of central midfielders, and that would be absolutely right. But then you're relying on Marvellous to stay fit, which we hope will happen, but we don't know for sure. You're relying on Liam Walsh to not get another red card that would give him a 5-game suspension, which would, that's a third of the season wiped out if he does. Shandon Baptiste, what's happening with him? We don't know. Were you to pick up an injury suddenly to Zach Nelson or to Jordan Clark, you are starting to look quite light in the centre of the park. So he does need replacing, but first of all, it'll be quite big to replace under Matt Bloomfield, I think, because he really was starting to come to the boil, particularly in that game at Oxford, where for 30 minutes he ran that midfield.
Yeah, it's blow in that sense, because he has been looking really impressive in that 3 with Marv and Clark. And he showed flashes under Rob, but he's playing on a side that wasn't really working. Like you say, that 2 never really gelled and left them really too open. But when he did get on the ball, he found the odd slide rule pass to put players in, and obviously scored that barrier against Oxford. And it's a shame, because I've spoken to him 2 or 3 times, and he really seemed to like it here. He really seemed to like the English game, said it suited him most and stuff. So if there's some personal issues there, that's sad for him, isn't it really? But yeah, I think that they're going to have to replace him in some way. But then he's a loan player, so if you can look to the loan market, I know you've been calling for that quite some time, then potential there. But just on the evidence of those 3 games that we've seen under Bloomfield, where something was starting to work there, and who knows? It's I don't necessarily think it's a rethink, because I think Lamine's coming back. He's poised to come back. We'll see if he's going to be ready for this game at Sheffield Wednesday. And they're not the same player, obviously, but we were impressed by what he did in his debut, at least. So there is some flexibility. It's a disappointing one. So on the one side, you got all this. It is quite positive, and then today that happened, but it wasn't really a surprise because the news broke earlier in the week. It was just like, damn, that's a little bit of a blow.
Yeah, I guess the news breaking earlier in the week would suggest that we've had 48 hours or whatever it is in advance to start looking for a replacement if we didn't have that replacement already lined up prior to that. So yeah, a bit of a blow. I enjoyed watching him. He got Luton, didn't he? The first game that he came on, he got the crowd G'd up against Sheffield Wednesday. Would have been handy to get the crowd G'd up against Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday, wouldn't it? Could he not have stayed for Saturday and then departed? But no, it's fair enough. Yeah, you're right. Lamine, it might be that Lamine would have been the other option in that midfield anyway, but he's not been available since Matt Bloomfield arrived at the club. So maybe that's something. And if that is the case, then it kind of lessens the blow a little bit that Krauss has left. But I just think we need to replace him we don't want to be in that position that we were in 12 months ago, where everything looked fine when the transfer window shut, and within a week injuries start mounting up, and all of a sudden we're swimming against the tide and we're running out of bodies because we need everybody that we can possibly get if we're going to get out of this situation, which I have to say I'm a lot more buoyed by our chances of doing it with just 2 signings, hopefully a third one imminent, and maybe a couple more on top of that. Then it'll be good to see, sort of where we go from there. But still a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, because it opens up that space in the middle where in the previous podcast I was saying I think that they need to find bodies for all of the central positions in defence, midfield and attack, and it looked like with the Naismith at the back and potentially Ali at the top and Aasgaard in the middle, it looked like they'd achieved that, and then it's sort of 2.5 steps forward and 1 back. But there's still enough time, isn't there, to try and get something. I just think I would have liked to have seen more of Krauss, because when he was playing good, he was really good, and he had a lot of high press interceptions and tackles that he was doing. I think he was one of the leading components in the championship.
He is the leader in the championship for tackles per 90 minutes. So that needs to be replaced, because that bite in midfield was something we've not had until Matt Bloomfield came in particular. And actually that's a lie, until Rob switched to 4-2-3-1 at QPR, and it's kind of changed, hasn't it? So thanks for everything, Tom. Hope everything's all good, and best of luck at getting Bochum out of the relegation zone in the Bundesliga. Backroom staff Jared Robert-Smith announced on LinkedIn last Friday actually that he'd left the club. It was made official, or more official by him on Sunday. He's been part of all of our promotions. He was here originally under Nathan, then he came back under Nathan, was in position during the Premier League days. His title probably didn't do him any favours, did it? Head of performance, when you've barely won a game of football for 12 months. But even so, everyone will have seen him around the place, whether you like us, we've seen him at the training ground, or you see him on a Saturday sorting out the warm-ups and everything. He's a sort of regular figure who's been a huge part of what this football club's done. So we wish him the very best in his future, and thank him for all of his efforts too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fair chunk of backroom staff that have stayed from the Edwards and before eras, isn't there? So there's bound to be some moving about there, because obviously Bloomfield brought some of his own people from Wycombe. It'd be interesting to see if they're going to replace him, if they're going to have that role again. We'll speak to Bloomfield at his pre-match presser. I'm sure it will come up, but yeah, I mean, it's he's gone to Charlton, hasn't he? It's a link up that he's had through since we've ever known him, since he come to this club. So perhaps no surprise there.
Indeed, so yeah. We're always on the ball here on this podcast, and literally in the 10 minutes since we've spoken about Richard Kone, it sounds like Town have gone in for a fourth stab at it. £7 million bid this time, increased by $1 million if Sky Sports are to be believed. 4 million up front this time, as opposed to 3.5 million up front. I mean, like you said earlier, surely we know the price now.
Have they tried 7 million plus £1 to see if that does
well,
that's Arsenal. So.
That Arsene Wenger would have accepted that in no time at all. More importantly, has anyone checked out the local supermarkets to see how close we are?
Which supermarket does Richard Kone get unveiled in? Leave your answer in the comments.
Yeah. Well, we've had Aasgaard in Tesco's, haven't we? And that was 3 million. So this will be double that. What's double Tesco's? I mean, Waitrose.
Could be.
Waitrose.
Yeah.
Get your eyes on
I don't have the coin to be going to Waitrose.
Nor me.
I've heard all about it.
Yeah, nor me. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that one develops. And obviously, if anything does develop, well, not by the time we finish this podcast, but by the time we review the Sheffield Wednesday game, we will go through all of that. Just before we go on to Sheffield Wednesday, then, we're still expecting plenty more transfer activity, probably more out than in. I think it's fair to say we have to get rid of players because we've currently got too many for our 25-man squad. So someone's going to have to go. What sort of positions now are you looking at? Obviously, we'd like to replace Krauss. Is there another sort of position that you're looking at as sort of core? If we can get that done, that would be an added bonus.
I kind of want another defender, only because we know the injury troubles, but we have got a lot of them. So I don't know if that's a thing. And we haven't really seen where Doughty's going to fit yet, whether it's going to be as a full-back or further up. All we've got so far is that he can play both, which obviously no. So if he was to be moved further up, maybe a left-back, that would seem wise, but we need cover anyway.
We do.
The Doughty injury alone has shown that how many times have we talked about square pegs in round holes this season? Let's buy some bloody round pegs to go in those damn round holes.
Yeah, we're expecting Joe Johnson to go out on loan. That wouldn't impact the registration squad because he doesn't have to be registered, so we would still need to get rid of someone else. The interesting thing when Aasgaard arrived was Matt Bloomfield said he's very versatile. He can play as an 8, as a 10, or off the left-hand side. So I wonder if on Saturday we're going to see Aasgaard off the left and Doughty at left-back, because it's been clear to the eye that Amari's struggling at the moment at left-back, and he would then become your left-back cover. And I presume in time it's Chong who's been earmarked to play that wide left role with Alfie in behind him. But we've got to wait for Chong. Sounds like his hamstring's not going to be repaired anytime soon. But obviously, if we sign Ali or another in that time, he might be able to venture out to the left. But yeah, that would be the area, wouldn't it? Another out and out left sided player. Of course, Kal Naismith can play down there as well. Played wide left for Wigan. Played left back for us at times. But then you'd need a centre back to return, probably for comfort. We don't think Ted and Mengi's close. We do think he'll play again this season. For everyone who's telling me that he isn't, we do believe he will be back. Matt Bloomfield said in a recent press conference that he intends to include him in his 25-man squad, and there's no point in doing that if he's not going to play again this season. We've surely learnt that lesson. So that's a positive. That's another reason why I like Cal. When we do get Ted and Mengi back, you could easily go Mengi, McGuinness at the centre, and then Cal can either go into midfield, again, another position that he played in that playoff season, or he could fill in at left back. I mean, the only place I've not seen Kal Naismith play is in goal, and I'm not overly convinced he can't play that either, to be honest. He'll certainly come for crosses and shout at his defence that he's coming, that is for sure. So, yeah, all looking good on the transfer-ins front. Probably do expect a bit of movement. I'm interested to see what happens to Victor Moses. It's all gone quiet. He's not even been on the bench, and I can't believe that Victor Moses can't get on our bench at the minute. Doesn't strike me as a Bloomfield player. Needs an awful lot of energy. When he came on in that game against Preston, I mean, it was dreadful, really, wasn't it? 15 minutes. Everyone can have a bad 15 minutes, but when you're trying to impress a new manager, it's probably not the 15 minutes that you wanted, to be fair. And he's getting on a bit. Matt Bloomfield strikes me as a young man's manager, the way that he plays his football. All of the signings so far have been young, apart from Kal Naismith, who's just a stopgap to fill the holes that need to be. You know, Isaiah Jones, mid-20s, Aasgaard, early 20s, Ali, early 20s, Kone, 21, I think he is. So we're clearly going down that route. So that would be one to look at. Can Corley Woodrow find a place in this side? He's not going to get in as one of the number 8s. Do we play a number 10 that would be more to his strengths? If we do, then absolutely advocate keeping him. Just not sure. We've basically had 2 years of where we can't fit him into the side. Of course, someone would need to want him, but there's an awful lot of rumours that Wrexham are sniffing around him. That would feel like an obvious one, even if it's only out on loan, just to get him out of the way. And then, you know, we'll see where we go from there, really.
Yeah, I think that would be right. Yeah, the Moses one is interesting. I think when we were talking about it at the beginning of the transfer window, when we said players that, you know, potentially could go out, I think he was involved in that. You know, I was even saying at the time, if somebody came in with a decent money bid for Kaminsky, they might look to do that. They could always, I suppose, given the loan situation and what we've seen with Tom Krauss, if it was really desperate, you could get Jack Walton back from Dundee. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. It's just we did talk about it, and I think Moses was involved in one of those. That if you're going to move anyone out, that might be. He's not really found. I mean, he's not really found his place at Luton, but then it's not been the season for that, has it? Nobody has. It's been pretty bad. So yeah, it remains to be seen on that one. Again, it's another thing to find out. It's going to be a busy Friday and a very, very interesting team sheet against Sheffield Wednesday. One of the most interesting ones of the season, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anything that the boys of the press gang can get out of Matt on Friday, it will be written up on the Lutonian.com website. And obviously we'll cover everything between Thursday and Sunday when we do the review of the Sheffield Wednesday game. Sheffield Wednesday, already beaten them once this season. You could argue we rode our luck. Obviously, the sending off we now know is never really a sending off. Hit the guy's shoulder. We take it because we need all the luck that we can get. 2 wins in 8 for Sheffield Wednesday going into this game, but only 1 defeat at home in the last 8. Obviously, those two form lines don't necessarily correlate. 2 defeats ago, though, Watford went there and bashed them 6-2. So that's giving me a little bit of confidence that if you can get after them, you can get some joy against them. Side in the top half of the table. But it has to be said, it's a game that we need 3 points from because the following ones don't look too promising.
Yes, we need points everywhere. But, you know, like we said in the last one, where are they going to come from? I don't know. Now, I think maybe the signings slightly changed the outlook on that, but you still got to go with what has happened, and it's not been good, obviously, as everybody knows on their travels. It would be nice to end it before you equal that worst ever run of away defeats. And it, you know, when you're looking at the players that are going to come in, there may be more options, and so that is a positive. Do they slot in straight away? Do they come in and make an impact straight away? That is the key. And I think, you know, when Sheffield Wednesday came down here last time, apart from doing what you told them not to do, which was let Barry Bannon have the freedom of Kenilworth Road, I think
keep an eye on him this time, Town. Please, the only one. Just keep an eye on him, please.
You know, it wasn't a sparkling performance by any measure of it, but I think that there was nothing there really from Sheffield Wednesday that was there to frighten you. Like, if you can keep Barry Bannon quite quiet, then then it is a winnable game in any other world or any other alternative dimension where Luton just aren't destined to lose on the road all the time. So, but yeah, you're right. Hopefully that can add fresh impetus. I mean, that is exactly what we were calling for in the last podcast, wasn't it? Saying really the only hope now seems to be freshening it up with new bodies. Well, that's happened a little bit and hopefully it can happen more. So
there's a lot of hoping.
There is a lot of hoping going on and a lot of wishing and a lot of praying and a lot of looking up to the football gods and hoping something falls, because it has been that bad and there's no disguising it.
No, there isn't. Yeah, there is no way around it. A week or two ago, I read on amongst the transfer rumours, Josh Windass was being linked with Santos. That's Santos that Pele used to play for out in Brazil. Santos.
Hasn't Neymar just gone back
Just
there?
signed, yeah. So they've gone from Josh Windass to Neymar. I mean, if that is the case and Windass has improved that much in the 4 months since we played them, we need to keep tabs on him as well. I refuse to believe that is the case. As it is, the former Sheffield Wednesday boss, can't remember his name, but he's now the manager of this Santos lot. So I'm guessing he's worked with Windass and liked what he saw in the past and thought he could get him on the cheap or something along those lines. But ultimately, Windass, his shots record, is on a par with Elijah's, which is in terms of volume of shots, Elijah's right up there. In fact, he's an absolute country mile clear in big chances missed this season, Elijah, which would suggest that the creativity that people are saying is a problem. It actually isn't, because he's missed 10 more big chances than anyone else in the division this season. It's the conversion of these chances that makes the creativity look as bad as what it does. Of course, it naturally looks bad without Alfie, and thank God we've got him back. But yeah, Windass, he is still at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, it's one of those that you have to wipe your eyes and make sure you're not seeing things and reread it. And it was definitely there, but yeah. Josh Windass, Santos and Neymar all in the same sentence is like weird.
If I was a Santos fan, I'd be more excited about Josh Windass, to be honest, because I think Neymar is one of the most overrated footballers that has been around for the last 10, 20 years.
Well, he'll be even more overrated now. He's earned every penny that he needs to earn in Saudi.
The man's got a good trick, but he's an absolute mercenary, and yeah, I think we wasted all of his best years at PSG, and nobody is going to convince me otherwise.
Bad luck, Santos. In fact, why not take Josh Windass before Saturday? Go and get him.
Also, if I was Josh Windass, I'd be like to the agent, can I do that, please?
That is what
be on the old Copacabana beach and then go and play a bit of football in Brazil. Lovely job.
That is what I'm thinking. Sheffield or Brazil. I mean, Sheffield's not the worst place in the world. Don't ever get me wrong. It's not the worst place. But Brazil, yeah, I can do that for a year or two. No problem, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, Josh Windass is still there. Got my friend Jay Beadle in goal for them still, haven't they? Yeah, be kind of happy if he's got a blooper or two in him.
That is a reference for the ages to anyone who's
is our age. I mean, we're still happy. The Gladiators has just come back, aren't we? Let alone You've Been Framed.
What a show that is! Can't get my kids involved in it at all. They're not interested. But Gladiators, yeah, brilliant.
I can't watch it, this series, without thinking of Ross Barkley and the great days.
Oh, because of Legend.
Because of Legend.
Let's call back to last season's
podcast. Yeah, absolutely.
What are we talking about, Gladiators?
Because You've Been Framed.
Oh, yeah.
Jay Beadle's in goal.
You have to explain to the young people out there. Jeremy Beadle was a bloke who ran a prank show.
Yeah, I mean, if you messed up on a camcorder, he'll give you 250 quid.
That's it, yeah.
You know, in today's world, that's probably about $5,000, to be fair as well. That's how far ago we are going back. But yeah, I digress. I think he was the under-21 keeper, wasn't he, when they played
Jeremy Beadle.
Well, he could have been him. When they played at Kenilworth Road earlier in the season. So obviously he's of a decent level, regardless of his name. And it's not Jeremy Beadle. I think it's James.
Let's hope he chucks a few in.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Just chuck
Someone
a few
stick
in.
a camcorder on him, and let's hope he does a few pranks, and we're all good. let's bring it back to Luton then. So Sheffield Wednesday, 1 defeat in 8 at home, but only 2 wins in 8 overall. So maybe we might get them at the right time. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on off field with them as well, isn't there? Their chairman's said, I'll sell the club if someone finds me a buyer, and the manager's supposedly wanted to cut his contract down because he's heard that, well, at the time, West Brom wanted him. Obviously, they've gone and got Tony Mowbray. Then they lost Shay Charles, who went back to Southampton and then mysteriously reappeared at Sheffield Wednesday when it looked like he was going to Sheffield United. I mean, we are looking at a bit of a basket case here, and hopefully that remains the case on Saturday. But yeah, Luton, 2 new signings that we know of. Straight in?
Yeah, for me, straight away. Everything we've heard from Kal Naismith says he's ready, so to get him in there straight away. And we're really excited to see Aasgaard. Because, we have seen him play against Luton, a couple of good goals. But all of his stats and his highlights, his profile fits really well. So he's the youngest looking player I can remember. Made me feel very old. But, hopefully he's got plenty of spring in his step, therefore.
Yeah, indeed. We referenced earlier, didn't we, about shooting from outside the box. I think that is a Matt Bloomfield thing, because I remember when we spoke about Matt Bloomfield when he arrived, Wycombe's XG output and their goals is a hell of a lot higher than their XG output. So that would suggest that less likely goals are going in, and less likely, obviously, the further out you are, the less likely they are to score, which is why so many of these modern coaches don't want you shooting from outside the box. It's all about quality of chance rather than quantity, isn't it? But that would suggest that we are going to see an awful lot more shooting outside the box. Krauss wasn't outside the box when he scored at Oxford, but he was near as damn it outside the box. And slowly but surely, chances of shooting are being taken a little bit more. Zach Nelson fired one into the car park, didn't he, down at Oxford? So that's another thing to sort of work out. And if that is the case, then Aasgaard looks an absolute dream signing, because we know he's got certainly quality from distance in that right foot.
Yeah, and certainly from some of those long-range goals he's scored, he seems to find little pockets of space just in front of the opposition defence, which is a very useful trait. So, yeah, hopefully he can just come in and continue his goal-scoring form that he's got there. Remember the last scouser we got from Wigan did all right in helping the Great Escape, didn't he? Calum Naismith?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, teammate of his right now, or was until he popped up in Tesco's the other night. Naismith for Anderson?
I think it has to be at the moment. There's just no point in bringing him in otherwise. It'd be interesting to see how that materialised, but I imagine as soon as it did, and as soon as the offer was there, all the possibilities, that snapping someone's hand off to get him back and do that, everybody can remember he was the player of the season when he left, wasn't he? So, and he was a player of the season by a long chalk. He was absolutely outstanding. So, I mean, if you get a fraction of that for the remaining games, then yes, of course, a fantastic signing. That's it. It's almost your Cameron Carter-Vickers stuff, isn't it? That you were talking about. I mean, different players, obviously. Different attributes. Kal Naismith's more of an all-rounder, isn't he? So gotta stick him in.
Tell you what, if Kal Naismith's only 25 yards from goal, I'll be on the edge of my seat after that Bournemouth game. You loved that, didn't you? As soon as he signed, you were straight on the old Twitter or X or whatever it was, getting the repeat of that goal out and celebrating it. You was all over that.
Well, I'd said, because it was only a couple of weeks ago, that the anniversary of it, the 30-year anniversary of it, I tweeted at the time, I'm just hoping for more of this madness when football was fun. Do you remember that sort of thing? So, funny how things work out, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, anyone would think you brokered the deal the way it was. Yeah, I think Aasgaard definitely.
Considering I've never been to Waitrose and I don't look like going anytime soon, I don't think I'm getting any kickbacks from that deal.
No, you're not. That's for sure. Yeah, Aasgaard definitely starts, doesn't he? He's been playing regularly for Wigan. It's where he starts. Obviously, we need to replace Krauss. Will that be him? I guess he could play the number 8 position, but as I say, I just got an inkling he's going to start out on the left-hand side with Alfie playing at left back, which would probably open the door for Zach Nelson maybe to do the Krauss position, because Matt Bloomfield has mentioned if not to you, certainly to your colleagues a couple of times, that he sees him in the sort of central position of the pitch, whereas at the moment he's only utilised him wide out on the left. If we can get Zach in the centre of the pitch, it might just fill a hole without having to fill the hole, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the thing now is there just seems some versatility and some options there, doesn't it? So that's part of it. They do sign players that they can hopefully play in different positions, and hopefully they don't have to very often, because we want them operating in exactly where they're supposed to be playing. But while we're in this situation currently that Krauss has gone out today and no one's come in to replace him, there's some movement that can happen there. Obviously, we haven't seen Liam Walsh much yet, so he could come in and obviously play in the centre, and Bloomfield was talking him up. It's been quite harsh on him. It's just that the strength of that midfield three with Krauss in it was so good you couldn't not play them. But now I think there's a window open there. So maybe that was part of it as well. They're thinking that they've got cover. I mean, Walsh, he was never going to get a red card for that last challenge in the last match, but even though people suggested it, but he's still got that in him, I suppose. But hopefully not, and he can last the season. Yeah,
it's more player reaction from the Millwall players, wasn't it, that suggested that it was worse than it looked. We could go 4-2-3-1, couldn't we, like we did at QPR, and have Marvin Walsh as the 2, someone like Clark as the 10, and then you could still play Aasgaard out on the left, Jones out on the right. Surely Jones comes back for this game, having rested for the last game. Make no sense otherwise. Whichever one is starting through the middle. It will be interesting to see if they all get rotated again, actually, because they've had a week, so there's no real reason to rotate them. So start with Morris, presumably. I think Morris is the more senior man. Obviously, he's captain, unless Cal takes that.
I'd be surprised if he does.
Yeah, I do too. You don't need to give him the captaincy armband for him to do the captaincy.
Would you give a captaincy to a lone man? I don't think that would happen. You don't need to. He'll shout and bark at all those players that he needs to, and do exactly that role. Just won't have the band on his arm.
Yeah, indeed. I still think we'll probably be better football-wise away from home. Obviously, you'd like to think that the Hillsborough pitch would be better than the one that we've been playing on. We've had an awful lot of home games in the last 2 months. Feels like I've been at Kenilworth Road every weekend, such as the amount of games have been, because the away games have been in midweek. Hopefully Luton produce a better performance. There's certainly fresh blood to bring into the side to give a little bit of hope. And I'm excited again, Jimbo, and, I hasten to add, the last time I was excited, we drew 0-0 with Preston. But we probably wouldn't turn the 0-0 down here, would we? Because it would end that bloody horrible run of away results.
I'll snap your hand off for it, yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? It was very doom and gloom after the last game for obvious reasons. I think a couple of other things have gone into the mix this week. Obviously, Pompey not pulling any further away. Ivanovic from Millwall doing an absolute turn for us and keeping them within 3 points, although the goal difference is better, obviously. So that's a bit
close, though, isn't it? It's only 2 difference now. So if we win, which we have to do to catch them anyway, and they lose, the goal difference is then level. They'd still got us covered on goals scored, but it's a hell of a lot rosier than before they went and got done 5-1 or whatever it was at West Brom last week. Our goal difference was really detrimental. Not necessarily the case now.
Yeah, all these things go into the mix that just... I hope that's how people are feeling. It's just me and you, our feelings of it, that it just feels like a little bit of a lift, doesn't it? It's all got to come together and work, obviously. It's a couple of pieces into the puzzle, isn't it? So hopefully that, the feel-good factor bounces into that game. And, if they can we just need to not lose to stop that rot. Obviously, we need more points, and we want every single game to be 3 points from here on in. It's not going to happen. So if you can stop the rot of the away defeats, get some confidence, play some decent football with those new players, although I'd take drudgery for a 0-0 just to get us off the mark and put to bed those lingering threats of equaling one of the worst records the football club's got. So, if you're going to offer me a 0-0, I'd definitely take it.
Yeah, I probably would too, but obviously we don't play next weekend, and a lot of this division do play next weekend. So if we don't get 3 points, there is although we'd have a game in hand, and it's not too far in the distance when that game in hand's played, the numbers of the league table might start to get away from us if we don't win on Saturday. So let's hope that we can win on Saturday. We're not going to go through the entire 1 to 11 of what me and Jimbo think, just purely because we could sign players and us giving you the full 11s would just be null and void. So it's kind of pointless. But we will conclude this podcast with score predictions. Jimbo, even games. So you're up first.
0-0.
Please let there be a goal, Town.
Before the signings happened and before this week happened, I wouldn't have gone for anything. I would have said, unfortunately, it's going to carry on. The defeats are going to carry on. And it could well still happen. But hopefully the little bit of lift that I've got won't necessarily be lift off, but it will be just stop this situation and go from there, move on and go from there with that behind you.
I'm not expecting a high scoring game. Although I did say that at Oxford and it ended 3-2. We'll go one last time for turnaround to happen because, we've had signings, what we called for. I said we weren't going to turn this around without signings. I then can't sit and watch us make signings and then not have the turnaround. So Luton to win again. Are we going to keep Bannon quiet for the whole game? Probably not. So let's have the same result as we had down here, 2-1 Luton.
Wow.
We'd definitely take that.
Yeah, I mean, yours is probably more likely than 0-0, to be honest. But we can dream.
We can indeed, yeah. 2-1 Luton for me, 0-0 for Jimbo. Plenty of time to get your score predictions in for this one. Let us have them. What do you make of the new signings? Have we called it right? What do you think of the Kone situation? Let us know. Is the fourth bid, should it be the last one if it's not accepted? Should we look elsewhere? It looks like we are going to look elsewhere, to be fair. What other positions should we fill? Get all of your comments in to us with regards to all of that. We will do a full deep dive after we've done the Sheffield Wednesday review on Sunday. So get anything that you want us to talk about with regards to what's going on at Luton or what's happened so far this season into us. And we'll do a sort of hour going through all of your questions and all of your sort of topics that you'd like us to cover. That is pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks to everyone who's been getting in touch with us. The comments have been absolutely great. We've tried to acknowledge them as much as we can do, but obviously podcasts are coming thick and fast and transfers are happening and everything's changing on a regular basis. But we do appreciate all the comments.
Nice ones always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody said to me that I looked more morose than usual.
He was pretty depressed in that last one, wasn't he? You hadn't got over that game at all.
He was referring to my usual moroseness. I was hoping I'm not. I think I'm a recovering curmudgeon. So, every now and again, maybe it slips in, but hopefully not.
Well, hopefully you've got plenty to be excited about when we reconvene on Sunday evening for the review of the Sheffield Wednesday game. Do keep subscribing. We're beyond 2,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely great. But after the Sheffield Wednesday game, when football resumes again for Luton Town, it resumes with 4 games in 10 days. So podcasts are going to come thick and fast over that period. So if you've subscribed, you'll know when all of our content drops, and you'll also know when the deep dive that we're going to do in between the Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland game lands as well. We haven't got an exact date for that yet. Hopefully we will have when we're back in here on Sunday. Thanks also to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolf Gang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Till next time, which will be a review of the trip to Hillsborough from Jimbo and myself. Come on, you Hatters, let's have those 3 points.
I believe our sports are the best sports in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.